Here we are. We are live. It's Sunday morning. It's 2 minutes past 9. And I've got to say, Gareth was actually on time today. Look at him, keen, raring to go, hair freshly washed. Even though I did think, Gareth, it looked like you had a bit of a late night.
Yeah, you said I look like I've been dragged through a hedge backwards, but no, I've just washed the old barnet, that's all. I was up early, I've had my coffee, ready to rock. Still, it was a late night. It's always a late night on a Saturday night for us, and ready to rock and roll. Big week coming up, big
Yeah.
few weeks coming up, Abs, October Red. Yeah, just I've got builders here early this morning, finishing off
Again.
my terrace. Yeah, well, I'm finishing off my garden terrace, ready to enjoy the 5 months of half decent weather that we get in this country.
Yeah, I get that. And good morning. We've got somebody. Look at this. Look at this naughty person. JB. First comment and puts the vomit emoji. So JB, if you are still there, like I said in the chat, it's good to see you too. Jesus, a good morning to you. Gareth, can I play this, please? 1 second. And I need you to explain it to me. 1 minute.
Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the armies of the north, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife. I am Maximus, will take its vengeance in the Grand National. Well, there you have it.
Gareth, I have no clue about the Grand National except for the thousands of tweets I've seen with the young guys in suits beating 7 shades of crap out of each other. What's that about?
Well, I don't know what that's about. That's people. That's the arrogance of youth and people having too many drinks. But I am Maximus.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know Abs, but I'm a William Hill ambassador. And I do my things for William Hill.
Gamble aware, everybody.
You weren't aware of it, no? Well,
no, I just said gamble aware. Gamble aware.
BeGambleAware.org. Get epic value with William Hill. Yeah. We had to pick, the ambassadors had to pick our winner of the Grand National, and I am Maximus won yesterday.
Right.
So 3 of the 7 or 8 William Hill ambassadors chose I am Maximus. I chose it because gladiator theme and all of that, and of course it came in yesterday. So I was just playing with my name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the armies of the north. Father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, true servant of the real emperor of Rome, or however it goes. And I will take my vengeance in this life or the next. One of the great films and one of the great acting roles by the Russell Crowe, of course. So I was just playing on that yesterday, and it was just really weird. I didn't bet on the Grand National, but it's just weird that whenever you pick a horse, I'm always like this. I can pick a horse, but if I bet on it, it doesn't win. But if I don't bet on it, it does win. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll leave that to I've been to the Grand National once, and it's an amazing atmosphere.
Yeah.
I haven't ended up in any fights, and there weren't any fights, but that was quite a while ago, probably about over 20 years ago when I went to the Grand National. But yeah,
when you were still at school.
No, I was 30. That's a big
Don't be giving your age away now, yeah. But yeah, I'm Maximus won. Willie Mullins won yesterday. 7-1 it was as well. I'm Maximus. Like a big mug of coffee in the morning.
That's absolutely huge. I was just looking at the.
That's what you always say to me. Yeah, I know.
No, I don't. I usually get the magnifying glass out and say, "Hold on a minute." Why are we in the gutter? It's 9 a.m. in the morning. Listen, guys. Welcome to all.
I'm just living up to that guy that's doing the puke signs.
You watch that?
I don't even know what it means really. So.
Oh right, okay, yeah. Oh no, sorry. I'm thinking of another film. Anyway. Let's get back to last night. We can cover the boxing, but I also want to speak to you about the UFC because I'm watching the show now, like from the beginning, because I fell asleep again last night. I've watched snippets of the post-fight press conference. I'm a newbie to UFC. I keep on hearing Frank Smith and Eddie Hearn continuously saying UFC model. We're looking at the UFC model. I watched Dana White say we're going to give out a 300k bonus. we're going to be having a UFC. I don't know what number it will be, but it's going to be in Manchester in the UK. His press conferences were extremely interactive. It was packed full of people. The media they just literally ask any question that they want, and he would address it either politely or impolitely. It was just a little bit of an eye-opener coming from the boxing side, where we seem slightly more conservative. I don't know. You've got the experience of mixed martial arts and obviously the UFC.
Yeah, there's a lot of things there to pick through. I've been involved writing, been involved with the growth, if you like, of UFC till back to 2006.
Right.
You know, and I've been involved writing about it and making documentaries. So, you know, I presented and worked on TV since about 2008-9. I did the first ever MMA show in the UK, by the way, on Setanta Sports years ago. Yeah, I do watch UFC. I mean, because I watch UFC, I was kind of like one of the first presenters on it I was the first presenter on it in the UK way back when. I was also 5 years for BT Sports presenter on the UFC between 2013, 2018. Anyway, been involved with it a long time. Consultant editor of a magazine called Fighters Only as well. Very involved. First journalism on it in the UK in terms of national newspapers. The Telegraph used to cover it once a month. I'd do a feature on a page. It's a fascinating sport with amazing characters. And it does have a different algorithm, but it's a sports league as opposed to a whole sport. There's different nuanced layers in boxing that don't exist in the UFC because they're all signed. Now, the reason why Eddie Hearn and Frank Smith say we like the UFC model is that what they're basically saying is we'd like to run the whole of boxing on our own with no other promoters as an empire, so that you sign everyone and you can control the narrative. I think there's really only one person that's doing that at the moment, and that's His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh, frankly, or has the power to do that. I think what they're trying to say is they like the way the UFC's run the razzmatazz, as you say, Dana White, not Dana. Dana White comes from boxing. He's from Boston. He was originally a boxing guy, but you know, met the Fertitta brothers, the casino owners, who I've spent time with. They're phenomenal people. They're very, very clever, and they're all fight fans as well. Really big fight fans in their lives and train and all of that kind of thing. So to give you a potted history lesson here, and you know, they bought the UFC for 2 or 3 million, the 3 letters UFC, way back in 1993, I think it is, from memory. No, 2000 and God, I can't even remember right now. 2000 and was it 98?
I don't know why 93 rings a bell, but whatever.
No, 93 was the first ever UFC, November 1993 I'm got loads of things in my head this morning, and it's early, and I can't remember. Denver, Colorado was the very first UFC, won by Royce Gracie, who's a good friend of mine, who's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy. The Gracie family, a very famous jiu-jitsu family, and I know Henzo and Hoyler, and they've all got, you know, there's like 300 of them all over the world teaching Brazilian jiu-jitsu that their father and the grandfathers all started in Brazil. They were Scottish Japanese who grew up in Brazil, and they were little guys, but they wanted to learn how to fight people who were kind of maybe 2 or 3 or 4 stone heavier than them. And the whole thing with jiu-jitsu, once you get them on the mat, it doesn't matter how much heavier than they are than you can control them with locks and holds, and it's a lifestyle now. Anyway, jiu-jitsu's the cradle of mixed martial arts. So, you know, it was called cage fighting way back when. The Ultimate Fighting Championship is enormous now. I was at UFC 100. I was at UFC 200.
Oh, flipping heck.
And last night I wasn't at UFC 300. I'm a little bit more on the outside now, but I was monitoring it. I've got to catch up with it. I know all the results, but I've yet to catch up with it because I've got to go into London to do some business today, and I just didn't want to go in on 0 hours sleep. So it's one of those things. Saturday nights for us, you could stay up all night, every night, watching fights on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. But I will catch up with it later. The bonuses were big. Dana White is an incredible character, brilliant promoter. Gives it if he has to, but he's a good guy. I've been to his office many times. I would consider him a friend in fight sports. And I think they've done a phenomenal job. The one debate about going into last night's UFC 300 was whether they had the star power in names that they'd had at UFC 200 and UFC 100. But from what I'm reading and what I'm seeing this morning, it really delivered last night.
Gareth, in regards to, the way the business is run, obviously, like you said, you've been to the fights, you've been part of the media. What are the big differences that you see with boxing media and obviously, the UFC, the MMA, the mixed martial arts? Because I'm starting to learn about that, and I'd like to get involved in the media side of that. But what are the obvious differences? Because the one thing that stood out to me is that White is not afraid to answer. Like, people will give him these direct questions, and he'll say, "Yeah, that was a good question," or he'll say, "What the hell was that? What are you talking about?" And he has that kind of like relationship with the media that he'll tell them that, that was rubbish, or he'll say, "Yep, that's a good question. Let's talk about that." Or then you'll get people asking about random fights, and he's like, "Yeah, let's get that done." There just seems to be so much more electric energy that I'm getting from these press conferences compared to obviously the boxing industry. So I kind of get the buzz around it, but you've been there. What is the difference?
Well, I think they control the narrative of all their fighters and the storylines. And the UFC was one of the very first internet sports. It was ahead of the game with everyone else. Right. Okay. And so a Dana White press conference or a post-fight press conference is a thing. Right. So and he's very powerful in terms of the moving and shaking within the industry, and he's very the things he does are viral. He'll people ask him hard questions, he responds very well, so he's able to answer a lot of things. Eddie Hearn is kind of similar in a way. Yep. But they can't control the narrative in the way that the UFC and Dana White can control the narrative on what's happening within the UFC. That's the fascinating thing about it.
I'm just going to quickly go into some questions because we've had some that have come into the chat regarding the UFC. Gareth, Alex Pereira go up to heavyweight next or fight Magomed Ankalaev?
Ankalaev. Yeah, could do. But the thing is, he's a really, really big guy at light heavy. 205 pounds is light heavyweight in mixed martial arts. So and then anything up to 265, they can't weigh in over 265 pounds in heavyweight in the UFC. Right. So it's he could go up to heavyweight. I think he got a second round stoppage, didn't he, last night of Jamal Hill? He's a big star, Alex Pereira. Was it round one? Was it? I thought it was. I'll have to pull it up.
I'll have a look. I thought it was round one. Anybody in the chat can help us with that. I'd appreciate it. Because, like I said, I'm catching up now. We've got another question from Paul Johnson. Shout out Paul with his photography.
That was round one. Sorry, 3 minutes 40. But I've yet to catch up. The thing is, Pereira's a big star, big guy, big star, very unusual character. He's one of the stars of the UFC. Doesn't speak English at the moment, so that's one factor which could hold him back a little bit. But crack on.
Paul Johnson said, Gareth, I know it's a different discipline, MMA, but sometimes I think the boxing skills are way too sloppy for the levels these guys are at. Is that harsh?
Yeah, it is harsh because they're strikers. They're hybrid martial artists. They're not. Boxing's one single martial art, so the skills are different. It's much more honed. Whereas what I always say about mixed martial arts, it's the decathlon of fight sports, because you've got wrestling and jiu-jitsu and taekwondo and Wing Chun and all these different, boxing, wrestling, all these elements all in together, taekwondo, Muay Thai. They use all these skills in a hybrid form. So sloppy, it's just, I think what MMA is always seen as is very effective fighting, and it's very effective in terms of what you might deem street fighting as well.
Okay, I've got to jump straight into a super chat there.
Kickboxing as well, I forgot. Kickboxing as well. You think about all the skills. Go on, jump in.
I've got to do this because it's a super chat of $10 from my brother from overseas, a New Yorker, Bluebird Sports TV. Blessings to the Empress Misread and blessings to Gareth A. Davies. Much respect, guys. Yes, definitely shout out to Blue Bloods. We've got to link up and do another live soon, but we're going to keep it stepping on this. Upside down. Let's have a look. Hold on a second. Upside down, first of all. Good morning, guys. Can you shout out Caden and Dad? I think it'd be more significant if Gareth A. Davies does that shout out for you.
Here's a massive shout out on this Sunday morning to Caden and Dad, presumably Caden's dad. Enjoy, be kind, have a fantastic day. Get out there and enjoy yourselves.
We've got another question that's come in from, I won't pronounce the name because I will get it wrong, but good morning to you. What does Gareth think about Conor McGregor versus Chandler for UFC 301 at £170? Yes, the return of Conor.
Yeah, the Mac could be back, but I don't think he's going to be fighting Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler, guy I know very well from my days working on Bellator, the other organisation, and obviously Professional Fighters League have now bought it. I'm working with them later this year at 3 different events. I don't think Conor's going to come back and fight Michael Chandler. I think Conor's more likely to have a knockabout in a boxing match with someone. He's still training. There's still video footage of him out there training. But for me, I think Conor's days are done. I don't think he is going to fight Chandler, in my view. I think he's too far gone.
Don't you?
No.
Yeah.
Have they?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. McGregor versus Chandler, June 29th at UFC International. It was in the post-fight press conference.
Where is it? Where is it?
It's on the UFC official page.
No. I mean, where's it taking place? Apologies. Was that announced last night?
It says at the UFC I don't know where. T-Mobile Arena. Apologies.
Oh, it's International Fight Week. Well, that's amazing.
Yep.
Oh, it's just been announced. Okay, brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I missed that this morning. Again, if you sleep,
and literally I've been up from 6 trying to catch up with everything.
Yeah. If you snooze, you lose. And I had a little snooze last night. Having got back from Talk Sport radio show at about 2 a.m. Well, that's brilliant. Conor's got to make 170. It's at welterweight. It's a really dangerous fight for Conor McGregor because Michael Chandler's like a mini Mike Tyson. He's got wrestling and knockout skills. I see him as the favourite in it. But I'm really pleased it's happening. I never thought it would happen. But I'm absolutely delighted. So thanks for telling me about that. It's brilliant.
Final one here on the mixed martial arts, the UFC. In terms of UFC in the UK, and this is a good question, actually, because I need to try and get into Leon Edwards' gym. So if you're listening, Leon, even though I doubt it, I'd like to come and see you. In terms of UFC in the UK, what is going on with Leon Edwards? Not hearing any summer dates yet. But you might be on the Manchester card.
Your fellow Brummies, Jamaican Brummies, they are, Leon and Fabian Edwards. Fabian Edwards' his brother as well. Great guys. Leon obviously is the UFC welterweight champion. Mm-hmm. It's brilliant to see his progress and his success. Hopefully there'll be a big event in the UK with him headlining very soon. I think Dana White was talking about it recently, wanting to come to the UK soon. So hopefully he'll be on that card.
June. Manchester in June, he's doing it.
Yeah, brilliant.
Can't wait. But we're gonna touch on last night. That was a quick little bit of introduction for myself for mixed martial arts. Obviously, I know that you're au fait with the sport. Is it the doorbell? He's disappeared again.
Yeah, just one sec.
Gareth is so impromptu, but this is why we like him. Let's have a look. Randy Orton, both Ellie Scottney and Dixon won world titles last night against opponents who could throw proper punches. Does having world titles on the line for these mismatches damaging for female sports?
Look, they can only fight who they're up against at the moment. There is a lack of depth at the very top level. Women are winning world titles after 7, 8, 9 fights at the moment. You look at Sky Nicholson a couple of weeks ago as well. But, you know, Rhiannon Dixon did learn something last night. She was being urged by Anthony Crawler, even though she dropped, what was her name, Carvajal. She was being urged in that fight last night. You've got 6 minutes left here. You're tiring. She's more tired than you are. Don't lose your focus. It just is what it is. I don't think you can compare women's boxing to the men's game. The men's sport. It's a different sport in some ways. It's a different stage of evolution. That's why there's a group of elite women that can kind of go up 2 or 3 weight divisions at the moment.
Yes.
And win world titles in multiple weights, like Tasha Jonas has done, like Terry Harper's done, Clarissa Shields and others. But does it lessen the quality of the sport? No, it's a sport in evolution, and you've got to have these fights. I think Eddie Hearn has decided that he wants to really promote and push women's boxing, and we've seen that with Ellie Scottney last night, unifying the world title. She had a tough fight. She was very dominant, but it's I just think it's brilliant because it's going to encourage more women into the sport. It's growing all the time. The quality and standard of the women is not getting worse. It's getting better.
Yeah,
I look at Rhiannon Dixon. She was a dancer earlier on in her life. She was a pharmacist, and now she's trained by Anthony Crawler. And Crawler's brother won last night as well, didn't he? At light middleweight.
Yeah, lovely.
It was a big night for the Crawlers. I've got a bit of a bone to pick with Anthony Crawler though. Bit unhappy with him this week. Well, I told him I was a bit unhappy with him when I was up in Manchester this week, I'm afraid. I really liked his long locks, and he'd gone and cut his hair off, and I gave him quite a hard time about it.
I knew you'd say something on that.
But what was the point? He looked beautifully Italian with the locks, and he cuts it off, and he goes for the whatever look is it. I don't know what it's called, but he just chopped it all off, and it was very upsetting to see, I'm afraid.
Right, I've got one of my favourites here, AP. He's got the best sense of humour, very sarcastic, likes to wind people up in the chat, but he's actually been serious for once. He said, can Gareth give a shout out to the lads, Wellington, Andy and Matty, and Rapping Bob? They're off to Jamaica later today. I think AP maybe from the travelling. I think.
You're making me jealous.
You're
making me jealous. You're making me jealous, baby. The lads, Wellington, Andy, Matty, and Rapping Rob, go make it sing in Jamaica, guys. Have a great time. And as I say, you're making me jealous.
Right. We are going to touch on the 5v5. Oh, in fact, no, before we do that, can I have your thoughts on Jordan Gill versus Zelfa Barrett? We've got to cover that fight. It was a beautiful fight to watch. I did have Zelfa winning. That's what I thought was going to happen. But he was behind on those cards, wasn't he? As such, not on the actual cards because he wasn't, but on the viewers, the eye test.
It was a very, like I say, it was a really good dance to watch. I was in the studio presenting at Talk Sport at the time. I had it on the monitor. The shapes were lovely. And I was very impressed with the way Jordan Gill boxed and also the patience of Zelfa Barrett. Barrett, you had to say on paper it was a level above. Jordan was also coming up a weight division, But like you say, it was a lovely fight to watch. They both took the centre of the ring. There was lots of nice movement and boxing within the fight. And then suddenly, from nowhere, boom, fantastic body shots in the 10th round. And Jordan Gill couldn't live with them. And obviously Zelfa put him down twice. And he just showed his class last night. He really showed his class. I've always said to him, and I was up there with you on Thursday this week in Manchester for the press conference. And I've always said to him, and he's obviously his uncle Pat Barrett is a boxer of yore, of old, and very loved and respected in the British boxing game, and an animal when he fought. And I've always said to Zelfa, obviously failed once at world title level. I still think he'll go on and win a world title. He's got all those skills, and this is a fight that will have given him a lot of confidence. Because Jordan Gill did stretch him during the fight. I thought it was a great advert for British boxing again, as a main event.
Yeah, we love it. I couldn't stay on that, but Gareth, tomorrow is a very important day for those of us that love boxing. Obviously, you'll be there, I'll be there. There'll be a plethora of media down in London tomorrow as we get the unveiling. It almost feels like a royal event, the unveiling of the 5v5, which will be the undercard of the undisputed fight between Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol. Gareth, what are we saying about tomorrow? Because I am excited. I know I won't sleep tonight. That might sound petty to some, but I cannot wait.
Absolutely, it's going to be an all singing, all dancing press conference tomorrow in the outer net. It'll be a big event. And my understanding is all the boxers are there. So we'll have 12 boxers. We'll have Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren like that. I said to Eddie in the week, what, you and Frank going to sit next to each other in the front row when this thing takes place? And Frank was on air with us on TalkSport last night. And I said, no pipe and slippers for you yet, Frank. He said, no, I'm in training. I'm ready for Eddie. I'm taking him in this event. I've got a little indication of who all the fighters are tomorrow. Obviously, we've got the light heavyweight fight between Beterbiev and Bivol, as you say, one of the best and biggest fights in boxing, both undefeated, both in their prime. An interesting stylistic matchup as well. I slightly favour Beterbiev in the fight because of his power and his ability to thrash with combinations and to fight hard when he's under pressure. But Bivol is very silky and smooth. He's never forced to run around in the office. He's always very composed. So I'm really looking forward to this. And then the 10 fighters on the undercard, 2 heavyweight fights. So expect 4 big men there tomorrow. That could be, well, it's going to be special, I'm telling you that. And then another light heavyweight fight, a middleweight fight, and a featherweight fight. They are all worthy of being main events anywhere in the world, believe me.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna ask because I know you can't actually.
I can't.
But on the entertainment level, on a scale, and I'm going to start the scale high.
10,
So I'm going to say from 8 to 10. Wow.
10 all day long. 10. Yeah, 10.
The trajectory of boxing. What is this style of, Queen's Matchroom versus Queensbury versus Matchroom? The trajectory of this style of fighting where we're actually having promoters working together to go against each other with the fights. What is this going to do for British boxing, as it were, with the 2 main promoters?
Well, it just kind of sticks in the craw now that Ben Shalom's falling out with the other 2, if you like, because you want to see them all getting on, because you want to see all the fights get made. You want to see Anthony Yard against Joshua Buatsi get made. We're in a there's an entente cordiale, if I can put it that way. There's been a moratorium on battle lines between Frank and Eddie at the moment, Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn, and it is good to see because it's healthier for the sport. Yeah. Who brought that about? His Excellency Turki Al Sheikh, who's giving the catalyzation of boxing, maybe even globally, the Saudi Arabian investment in boxing. It's just so extraordinary. You know, as you know, I've been involved in boxing a long time, in fight sports a long time. And it is a special period right now. People can say, oh yeah, just because money's being thrown at it. It's not. Yes, there's extraordinary funding for the big fights and fighters, but there's also a willingness and a desire to see the best fights made, to see people cooperating and working together. And we're all the beneficiaries of it. The sport is the beneficiary. The fans are the beneficiaries of it, because we're getting to see the fights that we really want to see. And tomorrow will be another momentous occasion in London when all these guys come together.
I literally can't wait for it. I'm super excited about that. Obviously, the event will start at 5 p.m. I think the media arrivals, you guys will probably be there earlier, but my invite states that I can get there from 4 p.m. I'm super excited. I'm interested and intrigued around the heavyweights, because I know that Frank Warren, if I can put it this way, is top heavy. Frank Warren is top heavy with the heavyweight. So I'm interested to see who Eddie Hearn is drafting in. I'm interested on the wild card. I'm interested on the light heavyweight bout. And that is because, where is Anthony Yard? Anthony Yard's in limbo. I was thinking Anthony Yard, Craig Richards. Is it that? Is everything going wrong? What's going on? Have we had spin out and it really is Anthony Yard and everything's fine with Frank Warren and this is all spin? It's that what if? And I really like that magical energy that it's brought to boxing. Yes, we can all say, yeah, I told you so. There's a list and blah, blah, blah. But we still don't know for sure. And that's what I like about this 5v5.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm telling you, it's a 10 out of 10. The magic that will emanate tomorrow from this event. And by the way, 2 weeks before it, it's Fury Usyk.
You know, yeah.
For the undisputed title. 2 weeks before that, it's Canelo against Munguia. 2 days after Canelo Munguia, Inouye's with Luis Nery in a super bantamweight.
Japan, yeah.
Super bantamweight, I think it is. Yeah, undisputed title. Come on, this is just an unbelievable time. Make the most of it while it's here. Make the most of it, and I'm glad you're coming down tomorrow. It's going to be a big, big, big day. It almost kids in a candy store tomorrow. And that's not just us. That's the fighters.
Wow. Wow. Listen, it's been 32 minutes. I promised that we'd only keep it short and brief. There's going to be plenty of content coming out of London tomorrow, so please keep your eye out, obviously on DAZN, TNT. I don't think Sky Sports are covering this one, but there'll be plenty of coverage all over YouTube regarding this. Could be what you'd say a historical event for boxing.
No question. No question.
And this is what we want to see more of, guys. Sorry, I haven't been able to get through all of the questions and all of the
come on, let's go through the last questions. Come on.
Right, let's have a look. Right, I'll name this account later. You do have a bit of a whinge. I think he's a Brummie, and we do whinge a bit in Brummie. He said, is Craig Richards versus Zach Parker a headline fight anywhere in the world?
No, but in the UK it is.
I hope Moses steps up a bit. He looks like real talent.
Yeah, it could be the future of the heavyweight division, that kid.
And boxing is in such a great place right now. And
You're
finally,
so right, Yoshi. You're so right. Anyone that doesn't say it, any detractors right now will always see the glass half full. Half empty.
Yeah, you get that. And Tim Jarrod, I can't wait for Fury versus Usyk. It's going to be a brilliant fight, and a fight that I don't think people are giving a lot of credit to. Yes, it is. Them two in the ring will be a fantastic fight. So
it might be a controversial draw, Abz, but I don't see Fury losing to Usyk, but it could well be a controversial draw, the first fight.
Hold on, Randy Orton. Has Eddie signed boots to freeze him out with Louis Ortiz, or has he given up on Ben and pinning hopes on Boots? If he's planning on making Boots undisputed, I don't think he's
different fighters, different levels, Dab. Different fighters, different levels, different stages of their career. Boots then is 31-0, 28 knockouts. I think he might be going after a big Terence Crawford fight, potentially, and getting Boots in with Crawford. But I also think the union of Eddie Hearn with Boots Ennis is a brilliant one for the promotion of Boots Ennis, who should be a bigger star by now. I think Eddie and Matchroom and DAZN will be really good for him.
And you know what I'm thinking as well, because we've kind of like got this global platform, I'd really like to see Frank Warren sign a US fighter. Look, this is hypothetically speaking. Can you imagine if the Boots Ennis versus Terence Crawford was on the 5v5? I'm speaking hypothetically, but when you look at it, what an absolute barnstormer that would be.
Absolutely. Absolutely right. We shall see. I mean, I think Frank's got his hands full. Well, he's got international fights. He's got Zhili Zhang. He's got Joseph Parker. But you want him to sign an American, I think, a big name American. I'm sure it's possible. I am sure it's possible.
But listen, guys, thank you all very much for tuning in this morning. Thank you to Blue Blood Sports for donating the dollars, the US dollars. It's always nice to see those flash up in the chat. As we say at October Red, stay ready. And any final words from yourself, Gareth, before you dip off into central London?
Ever ready.
Ever ready.